reputation for anything, it's excellent food and wine. With governmental organizations and independent groups ensuring the highest quality of French cheese, wine, produce, and meats, it's easy to see why France has such great food. Enjoying French food culture is an important part of traveling to France. There are lots of little distinctions and rules in French food culture, and knowing these nuances will help you better understand and enjoy your time in France. Keep an open mind when it comes to French food, especially when visiting France for the first time. Paris and Île-de-France are central regions where almost anything from the country is available, as all train lines meet in the city. Over 9,000 restaurants exist in Paris, and almost any cuisine can be obtained here. High-quality Michelin guide-rated restaurants proliferate here. French cuisine varies according to the season. In summer, salads and fruit dishes are popular because they are refreshing and produce is inexpensive and abundant. Greengrocers prefer to sell their fruits and vegetables at lower prices if needed, rather than see them rot in the heat. At the end of summer, mushrooms become plentiful and appear in stews throughout France. The hunting season begins in September and runs through February. Game of all kinds is eaten, often in elaborate dishes that celebrate the success of the hunt. Shellfish are at their peak when winter turns to spring, and oysters appear in restaurants in large quantities. With the advent of deep freeze and the air-conditioned hypermarché, these seasonal variations are less marked than hitherto, but they are still observed in some cases due to legal restrictions. Crayfish, for example, have a short season, and it is illegal to catch them out of season. Moreover, they do not freeze well. Why is food important to French culture? The French believe that taking a meal should be done in the company of others to relax and enjoy the meal. That applies to workmates, families, and any kind of foodie event. Usually, a French meal will take at least 2 hours and is pretty much always accompanied by wine or cider, depending on which part of the country you are in. In France, life doesn't revolve around work, money, or having the biggest car or TV. The French lifestyle is all about enjoying the best moments in life, whether it's through social gatherings, with the apéros, French cuisine, arts, or philosophy. A more French way to prepare beef than to marinate it in red wine? Named Boeuf Bourguignon after the famed red wine from the Burgundy region of France, this dish combines a nice, fatty cut of beef with a dry Pinot Noir and plenty of fresh vegetables to create a hearty and indulgent stew. It has been the focus of many discussions over which cuts of beef and types of wine create the best flavor profiles. But the most important ingredient for success is patience. Like any good stew, Boeuf Bourguignon is best when left overnight before serving. Not a fan of beef? Another French favorite, coq au vin, takes the Burgundian preparation and gives chicken the leading role instead. Bouillabaisse. With a long name and an even longer list of ingredients, bouillabaisse is Marseille's gift to France's culinary canon. The soup, once a poor man's dish, and now a mainstay on many a Michelin-starred menu, elevates the catch of the day beyond your standard soupe de poisson. According to the Mediterranean Port's Bouillabaisse Charter, in an attempt to standardize the ingredients and preparation of the classic dish, the soup must include at least 4 of 6 specific fish selections that are cut up in front of the diners. Alongside optional crustaceans and a spicy broth, no self-respecting bouillabaisse is complete without a topper of croutons dipped in rouille, a peppery garlic sauce. Tarte Tatan. This list of classic French dishes would be incomplete without the inclusion of something from the country's extensive repertoire of patisserie. Though not as refined or architectural as some treats seen in the windows of French sweet shops, the buttery, simmering Tarte Tatin, essentially an upside-down caramelized apple tart, is famous around the world for its rich flavor and unique history. Legend has it that sisters Stephanie and Caroline Tatin were working in a restaurant in the Loire Valley of France in the late 19th century when Stephanie was overwhelmed in the kitchen by the influx of customers during hunting season. She accidentally left the apples in her apple pie cooking too long and tried to salvage it by covering the apples in pastry and baking. The resulting dish, steaming apples under caramelized sugar with a flaky crust, was so popular it was eventually named after the sisters, La Tarte des Demoiselles Tatan. Though Tarte Tatan is sure to be delicious anywhere you try it, it might be best sampled where it originated. Northern France is very known for its apples, said David Lebovitz, author of The Sweet Life in Paris. They have spectacularly good cooking apples. French onion soup. Onion soup is not a new invention or even a dish that can be directly tied to France. Some of the earliest iterations of it can be traced back to ancient Rome, but the most famous version, the version you think of when you think onion soup, the version you order to start off your meal made with beef stock, onions, toasted bread, and ooey-gooey Gruyere cheese, that's all France. The element that really sets this soup apart from other, less indulgent onion-based options is the layer of cheese that tops the steaming broth. That comes from baking the soup in a broiler to melt the cheese and produce what the French call au gratin. The gratin technique is about making something in a shallow dish that will bake and get croûte on top, which means creating a crust. And that crust can be cheese, can be bread, can be all kinds of things. But a nice crust, explained Boulogne, who opened Le Gratin, an entire restaurant dedicated to highlighting the technique in New York. The most popular dish at the restaurant is another cheesy French favorite, gratin dauphinois, or gratin potatoes. Ggos are perhaps one of the most famous, or infamous depending on who you ask, French dishes around. The delicacy, which can be traced all the way back to the Roman Empire, might not be for everyone, but it's definitely worth a try for the adventurous eater. The classic recipe involves snails with parsley and garlic butter. The snails are served warm, either inside their shells or in a specific dish fashioned with 6 to 12 small compartments. Often the dish comes with some bread to help soak up the rich, buttery flavor. Aptly named after the French term soufflé, meaning to puff up, the experience of eating a chocolate soufflé or one of its savory counterparts is a bit like biting into a cloud. The rich yet lightweight dessert has been gracing French tables since the 18th century, but was really perfected by esteemed chef and arbiter of haute cuisine, Marie-Antoine Carême, in the mid-1800s. Though notoriously difficult to prepare, the soufflé has a relatively simple ingredient list. The distinctive airy texture comes from separating the egg whites from the yolk and whipping them into a stiff meringue before folding them back into the chocolate batter. The baking time and cooking temperature is specific and easy to get wrong, but the payoff is immediate. Soufflés are served hot and fresh from the oven. Not every French dish can be served all day, but then again, the crepe isn't just any French dish. As France's biggest hitting entry to the global pancake catalog, crepes have a uniquely versatile quality. They can be served for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. They can be made with buckwheat flour, the tradition of the Brittany region's savory galettes, or with more widely used white flour. They can be folded into triangles or rolled into logs. The paper-thin pancake is prepared rather theatrically on large griddles at creperies. You can now find crepes made with any combination of sweet or savory ingredients, but crepe Suzette are still a popular iteration, consisting of caramelized sugar, orange juice, and, for a flash of drama, flambéed liqueur. Salade niçoise is a celebration of the fresh, colorful produce available throughout the French Riviera, where the dish originated. Elegantly plated on a tray or large platter, the salad features a bed of lettuce and a simple olive oil dressing or vinaigrette that lets the real star of the dish truly shine: the crudités, or raw vegetables. A purist's salade, niçoise might feature a seasonal selection of fresh tomatoes, black olives, capers, and green beans, all served cold, with the optional addition of anchovies or tuna. But as the salad's popularity has grown outside of Nice, A number of ingredients have become common additions, such as hard-boiled eggs, potatoes, red bell peppers, fava beans, and cucumbers. The sandwich version of this salad, pain bagnat, is also worth a try. Picture all the delicious ingredients of a Ggos salad tucked into pain de campagne or French sourdough. Every bite of a creme brulee is an exercise in opposites. The sweet vanilla custard flavor contrasted with the almost bitter flavor of the brulee topping. The crunch of the caramelized sugar against the smooth, creamy texture of the custard underneath. The gentle water bath used to bake the custard compared with the dramatic blowtorch flame used to melt the sugar. In this dish, opposites definitely attract. Creme brulee is usually served in individual ramekins. Discs of caramel may be prepared separately and put on top just before serving, or the caramel may be formed directly on top of the custard immediately before serving. To do this, sugar is sprinkled onto the custard, then caramelized under a red-hot salamander, a cast-iron disc with a long wooden handle, or with a butane torch. It's hard to pinpoint when and even where the first creme brulee might have been made. There were similar recipes floating around France, Spain, and England, dating back as early as the 5th century. But one thing for sure is that humans throughout history have always loved a good creamy dessert. And who are we to disagree with 1,500 years of good reviews? What was once a method of preserving meat or vegetables before the existence of refrigerators has become one of the most famous French food preparation methods. The Confit process produces juicy, tender meat with crispy skin that's been enriched with the flavors of salt, herbs, and its own fat. What's not to love? Confit certainly isn't the easiest process, but it's hard to conceive of a more delicious way to prepare duck. First, the raw meat is cured with salt and aromatics such as thyme or garlic, then it's poached at a low temperature for several hours until the fat is fully rendered. The meat can then be stored with the fat in an airtight container for weeks or even months until you're ready to fry it up and eat it. This technique can easily go awry, but when done right, it produces a cut of duck that's nutty in flavor and fall off the bone tender.